Hey y'all, some months back Matthias Wandel posted a video where he took some plain old yogurt cups and created an insert for a drawer in his workshop that he uses for organizing nuts, bolts, screws, whatever kind of hardware that he needs to organize. Now, I don't have a workbench, I don't have a drawer, but I do have a CNC table. And while I have it taken apart, I figured I would use some of the space between these two legs here and do something very similar to what Matthias did. I went ahead and I finished it up, and this is what it looks like. It was a very simple build made out of a reclaimed 2x4 and a piece of scrap plywood. It gives me some storage space without using up any space that I can't afford to give away. So, if you're interested in seeing how I made it, check it out. I'm using a reclaimed 2x4 here, and whenever I use any kind of reclaimed lumber, one of the first things that I do is I run over it with my metal detector just so I don't get any nasty surprises later on when I run it over the jointer or run it through the planer. Once I've got any metal found or eliminated, I'll cut my pieces down to rough length, then run them nice and flat on the jointer, and then run one edge over the jointer as well. Then it's on to the planer. Now if you're wondering what that small block is just in front of the two long pieces that I'm pushing through, that's a sacrificial piece of 2x4. That's there to take any snipe that may happen as it goes through the planer. Then of course it's over to the table saw where I'm cutting grooves down the length of each piece, and I'll flip it end for end and run it a second time, thus making sure that my groove runs right down the center of the board. Then I come back and make several more passes just to hollow out the rest of the groove on both pieces, taking little bites at a time. And then of course checking it on a piece of 1/4 inch plywood to make sure that it'll slide back and forth nice and easy. Once done with the two runners, I'll go ahead and put them inside my table legs there, and I'm fastening these in with primer 1 5/8" long primer guard screws. No glue, just the screws. Get them front and rear, tuck it straight up against the bottom edge of that front and rear frame rail. Then it's on to placing my yogurt cups and gelatin dessert cups. Now I've already cut the plywood down to size. There's no sense in showing you that. You've seen people run plywood through a table saw before. Now you can be as nitpicky as you want on how you place the cups. I didn't even measure, I didn't draw anything out. I just picked something that looked pleasing to me, then traced an outline around each one of the cups in an area where I thought it would work. Put enough space in between each cup so where they would sit inside without bumping into one another. Then come back with a hole saw and cut out those holes in the center of my marks. Of course, I didn't use a big 3-inch hole saw to cut that completely out. I used a smaller hole saw, and I'll show you how I decided on which size to use. Now for sizing the holes, what I've done is I've got my hole saws out here, and you can see this 2 1/8 just drops all the way in, which means it's going to be smaller than the diameter of the bottom here. I don't want to cut out this entire hole here, because otherwise these are just going to drop right through. So with this 2 1/2-inch hole saw, it drops inside and meets the yogurt cup at about right here. That means it's going to stick up out of the hole about that much. Now I can fine-tune that with a file a little bit later on, or run it on my oscillating spindle sander. But as you can see, that's about where this is going to catch, just enough to hold that without it falling through. So that's how I sized my holes. Okay, when I got these finished, these yogurt cups sit just a little bit too tall for my taste. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run it on my oscillating spindle sander, kind of open up that hole just a little bit, see if I can get these cups to run, sit in there just a little bit longer. Much better. I will continue to do that. Getting all the holes cut out and sanded to size, the final step is just to take some regular old paraffin wax and run some along the edge of the plywood, just so it'll slide smoothly. And now I can start sorting hardware. So that's it. It's quick, it's easy. I used a piece of scrap plywood that I had floating around the shop and a reclaimed 2x4. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's going to do me for right now. And when I get my CNC put back together, I plan on cutting another one out of a nicer piece of plywood, and I'm going to incorporate a couple of other ideas that I have into it. So this is not exclusive to a CNC use. I mean, if you've got any kind of a workbench or any kind of a work table with open fronts and legs like that, you could put something together like this in just a few minutes. So, thanks for watching. If you got anything out of this video, give me a thumbs up down there. I'd sure appreciate it. But until next time, take care.